And yeah, welcome to another MacMerlin stream. I see an Arsoril, a Jason, a Bookmonger, Sushi Bird, Helicopter, Fluffy, Subarashi, Brian, who else is here? Jason, Crosswind Crozier, and Humbet. Thanks guys for joining in at the very start of the stream. So yeah, as you guys can see from the stream title down below, we are building, I guess this is the second Brutal V2 board. First one was a 65%, and the second one is going to be an 1800. Here you go, the Brutal V2 1800. Check it out. So there are differences between the Brutal V1 and the V2. The V1 was primarily designed by Upas, the proprietor of Canon Keys. The V2 is designed by AIO3 of Vega 65 fame and quite a few other boards actually. I believe they will eventually remake all of the Brutalist V1s into a V2, but for now, the only one that's out is the 65%, and the 1800 is soon to follow. Couple differences between V2 and V1. The V2 is actually redesigned from the ground up to be more brutalist architecture in nature. It's supposed to have an emphasis on mass and looking very heavy and large. The side profiles are going to be blocky and chunky, and there will be internal screws to give the board kind of a screwless feel, like a screwless look. In terms of the mounting system, the Brutal V1 was mainly a top mount / burger mount board, whereas the V2 is going to be a single-sided gasket mount. In fact, the gasket only goes on the bottom. A pure sandwich gasket is considered too soft of a sound for something that's Brutalist themed, so they wanted to stiffen it up a little bit. So Brutal V2 is not meant to be very soft nor bouncy. For all of you guys who like stiffer boards, Brutal V2 might be more up your alley. Other differences is V2 uses a daughter board. It's the AIO3 daughter board, and it also has zinc weights and a lot more customizability options, such as different plate materials, different foams, different silicon weights, hot swap and solderable options, and you can, I guess, adjustment on tightening of the screws. Interesting. Yeah, this is what the 1800 looks like. I, in fact, got the exact same color scheme. This is the same black top, silver bottom. Yeah, these are all the parts that are in it. And yeah, case weight's going to be about 1.85 kilograms, roughly 4 pounds, I believe. And this will be an in-stock sale similar to the other Brutalist boards. If you guys caught my brief unboxing last week, you'll know that I was very impressed with it. I thought it had a very AIO3 feel, of course, because he's the designer. So I've been very excited to build it. Yeah, another thing that's different is that it's using a different microcontroller. It's using the Raspberry Pi one. So this is my first board that uses the, if I can read this, I think it's the RP2040. It's right there. RP2040, so very cool. So yeah, I was a little upset that they didn't send me a hot swap one. This is going to be a completely soldered build. And the reason being is because they also sent me a half plate. This is also the first half plate board I will be building on stream. So let me just pull out those parts for you guys. You guys can see half plate right there. Half plate right there. And they did include a whole bunch of foams. So what I'm gonna do is build it with all the foams. You know, just cause I can. Look at all this. It's the same design language, just now name normalized. It's a workboard. All foams make sense. All the foams, so I don't get FOMO. There you go, that's the case foam right there. That's another case foam, and there's the plate foam. We will build with plate foam. Your coworkers would kill you if you didn't have a muted board. I think the trick is to just, you know, desensitize them, right? So the first board you bring in should be the most obnoxious, the most loudest board that you own, and then have them complain about it, right? And then bring the board that you want. So yeah, as usual, I've actually already pre-populated the PCB with stabilizers. They did come with Cannon key stabilizers, but for a soldered board, you know, it's really risky to, you know, use stabilizers that you aren't so confident in. So these stabilizers are the Owl Labs V1. That foam in, and the plate. Red Dragon with cherry blues. Oh yeah, definitely use that. Illusion of choice. Is pre-built with blues or a clack top mount? Oh, you guys may notice that for my numpad, I've chosen to only use one 2U stab. And this will be two 1Us. That's just the way I like numpads. I don't really like having two 2Us right there. I think it's a little excessive. Cannon Keys was so kind to provide me with the switches as well. These are lubed cherry blossoms. Here, let me pull that up for you guys as well. Here we go. So these are specs on these guys are linear, made by Durock. Top housing and bottom housing are palm. Stem material is P3. Don't know what that is. Spring weight is 65G. 5-pin mounting and factory lube is no. However, Cannon Keys did lube these for me because I requested lube switches. Any switch you buy these days are going to be decently lubed, right? But I've never encountered a switch in which lubing did not help it. So I'm like, yeah, of course. Of course I will take free lubing. How's the scratch with all that palm? Well, because these guys are lubed, I don't actually feel too much. Or any at all. Well, that's good. So yeah, one thing we have to be aware of when we build a half plate board is that the alphas, the part that's plateless, will tend to be a little bit askewed, not aligned properly. So we have to align them with keycaps. So what I'm gonna do here is maybe just solder one of the legs. Solder one of the legs and put the keycaps on and then go from there. Use another plate to hold them in. I thought about doing that, to be honest. Lay the entire thing on a plate, it worked. Yeah. There we go. Okay. The foam kind of holds it in place. It does kind of work as a plate as well. Okay, we're gonna give our stabilizers one last check before we start soldering modifiers. And let's see, what cannon caps should we use today? We should use... oh gosh. I don't want to use any of the CXA stuff that they gave me, just because with the new board like this, I want to try using keycaps that I'm familiar with. So I'm going to stick with either NicePBT or cannon caps. Let me see what's available really quick. What do I have that's available? Let's go with November Fog. November Fog's currently on my ID80, but yeah, I can take this off. Gotta find the numbers. Yeah, I've got them in the case. Alright, I think we're good. We'll solder in all of the stabilizers. Or the stabilized keys, I mean. Okay, I think I'm gonna put in all of the alphas first, just so we can start aligning them. I'm gonna put some of the boundary keys in. Okay. Okay, we're good. We're good. We're gonna solder in more of the side keys, so we get a better picture of how misaligned things are. Then we'll go from there. Okay, let's see how bad this is. Let's see. Maybe you guys can help me out too. What keys look misaligned? I can already see a few. My M key. My M key is terrible. Holy cow. Okay. So is the left caret. Okay. And the 8 key. You know what? I think most of them tend to be because they weren't pushed in all the way, so they kept falling out earlier. I'm just gonna go through each of them and Make sure they're properly secured in. Okay. Yeah, that does look better. It's still skewed in some places, but overall better than earlier. Yeah, if you guys... Okay, earlier I was mentioning that in the early days of this hobby, plates were harder to come by. So even for like tray mount, people built lots of PCB mount ones. And yeah, boy oh boy, were a lot of people's boards skewed. Are plates hard to come by? Just like a sourcing issue, just because the hobby was so new, right? Like, you could only buy plates if they came in a kit. You couldn't really find aftermarket ones. The plate files that we know today weren't distributed. You know, because it was so new, people were holding on to things. They didn't want to publish them and stuff. There we go. That looks significantly better. You know, even though this was a half plate and the plate's not there to secure the switches, make them properly aligned, I at least have a backup plan because these are 5-pin switches, you know, so that's what's saving me. There we go. Looks good. Looks much better. Oh, that feels good to type on as well. Okay. Let's finish soldering in. Actually, I'll put all the switches back in first, and then we'll solder it all together in one go. Halfling Graces has good history. All right. Okay, soldering time. Trying to be healthier, yeah. It's funny because I was looking at my charts and apparently my cholesterol levels were fine right before COVID. And when COVID hit, because I spent so much time indoors just not doing anything, just eating snacks, having my groceries delivered and all that, I gained a lot of weight, and I guess I just wasn't eating healthy. I'm trying to think, like, what did I possibly eat that raised my cholesterol levels? You know, like, I didn't really eat sweets, you know, like, I did have ice cream, like, well, I may have been drinking a lot more. But, like, what was I eating that would raise my cholesterol levels so much? It's so strange. See, Halfling Grace says, you're not alone there. Yeah, I know. But everyone gained weight during COVID. Alright. Let's get to soldering. Solder, solder, solder. So this is not the cable that came with the board, because I actually already installed the daughter board into the Brutal, but this is another daughter board. In fact, it's a C1. It's a C1. We are already up to C3. And we're just going to use this to test the board before we go any further. Upas says he is sending me the via JSON. Perfect. There we go. Thank you very much, Upas. Download. Perfect. Alright. Testing the matrix. Yep. These guys don't seem to be showing up in the matrix at all. Okay, at least that guy is, but these two are not. Interesting. Yeah, 0 and period. Let's see. Yep, they are not showing up in the test matrix. Uh-oh. Our diodes on the back, okay. Let me examine them. So that would be these guys over here. These two. Oh wait, I see one. I see one. Diode D90 is gone. Looks like the pad didn't get completely ripped off. I can probably solder. Do I have any spare diodes? I don't think I have a spare diode that small. But did it come off while I was soldering it, or was it off from the very get-go? Let's see. Did it come off in the packaging? Don't see anything. Nothing on my dust mat either. So who knows? Who knows when it came off? I'll probably review the footage later and just like zoom in to see if it was already off when I started soldering or not. Oh well, thankfully I don't really use a numpad that often. But Upas, if you can send me the part number for that diode, I'm sure I can pick one up from my local electronics store. See, Upas says, I'm worried now. I'm gonna have to check some of these other PCBs for those diodes. Oh. You know, more than likely, this is probably just a fluke. I wouldn't worry about it too much, Upas. I've gotten so many PCBs from you guys, and just so many PCBs in general. And this is probably like the first time this has happened. So yeah, it's probably just a fluke. I wouldn't stress too much about it. So earlier I mentioned that this is a seamless design. You guys can see that the screws are inside. So if you want to take apart your board, you do need to take off keys. So just FYI. So according to the build guide, they actually mention putting the gaskets on the bottom of the plate rather than on the case. But because this is my first experience with a half plate, I wasn't sure if I'd like it. So I figured I'd just put it on the case itself instead. And that way in the future, if I could just buy a plate and a PCB, not worry too much about having to redo all the gasket material. Yeah, daughter board goes in this way. It also goes in upside down so that the USB-C port is even lower than usual. These are 3 zinc weights, only visible inside the board. You don't see them outside. Look at that. I think when I did my unboxing, I mentioned that the Canon Keys logo is probably a prime candidate for infilling. If any of you guys are familiar with that process or are very good with it, you know. There was some case foam that came. So we're gonna put some case foam. There we go. Put in case foam. Wow, this guy's really... Oh, interesting. The cutouts are for hot swap. Hooray! Canon keys. I was half expecting that the top wouldn't fit in right away, because if you guys are familiar with these seamless design boards, sometimes vendors don't make the cutout big enough so that either the plate or the switch gets in the way of all the screw holes. So that's happened on a few boards, and I was a bit worried that this might happen here too, but you know, everything is just fine. Everything is fine, nothing to worry about. And you know, it's not a big problem if you have a hot swap board, but this is a soldered board. Imagine having to desolder the switches just to get your top plate to fit, you know? Okay, like I said earlier, I'm dismantling my ID80 for this. Check that out, guys. Ooh. I like how it feels. It's not as stiff as one might expect from the description that Canon Keys gave. It's definitely on the stiffer side, but it's not super stiff. I like it. Okay, let's do an actual typing test. Let me clean up a bit here first. Alright guys, this is the new Brutal V2 1800 built with lubed cherry blossom switches. Half aluminum plate with both the plate foam and the case foam in it, and topped with NicePBT November fog. Let's see how it sounds and types. Like I said earlier, this is my first half plate build. Never typed on one before, so honestly didn't know what to expect. Typing on one though, you can definitely feel that there's a big difference between the alphas here. Well, I guess it's not a big difference, but you can definitely notice that it's flexier here than it is over here, or even over here. This one is noticeably stiffer, but this one's fairly soft. I think that's because it's not only is it plateless, but there's also flex cuts on the PCB. Looks great, sounds great, and it feels actually pretty good. It is on the stiffer side, so keep that in mind. If you absolutely do not like stiff boards, this might not be for you. For someone like me who actually appreciates stiffer boards, this is great. This is a good feel for me. I do kind of want it to be a little more, what do you call that? A little louder. Just because this is a palm switch, I was expecting a little bit more clack out of it. But yeah, maybe I should take out the case foam. Crosswind says less foam. Yeah, less foam. And if I take it apart, I can fix that I key. That I key looks like it's out of place there. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that really quick. And I'm gonna change this top row out. I'm gonna do F13 and escape. Like so. So that way I can have that. Profile correct top row. There we go. There it is. Let's see. Does it feel any better? Oh, there's definitely more flex. The sound didn't change all that much, but I still think it's a louder sound. Yo, overall better, but the case foam didn't change much, if anything. Once again, this is the Brutal V2 1800, built with a half aluminum plate and lubed cherry blossom switches, with only plate foam and topped with NicePBT November fog. Not bad. I like it. Are there PCB flex cuts? Yes, there are PCB flex cuts. Yeah, I definitely like it better without the case foam. Okay. Unfortunately, I can't take out the plate foam because this is a soldered build, but I would be curious to try it without any case foam or without any plate foam in the future. Yeah, I kind of wish that, you know, so if you open up the board, you'll see that there are 3 zinc weights. Here, here, and here. Like, I kind of wish you could see the weights, but I get why they did it like this. You know, I get why they do it, why they chose to do it like this. Yeah, overall, I think it's pretty good. I know a couple people in chat were mentioning that the Brutal V2 65 was really great as well. If you guys are familiar with the Brutal V1, there was a 75, there was a 60, there was a 65, there was a 1800, so I would assume that Canon Keys is going to do the exact same lineup. So keep an eye, if you don't like the 1800 layout, keep an eye out on Canon Keys. I'm sure they'll be manufacturing the layout that you like. We need more WindX style full-size layouts, like the 98 key. Like I said earlier, this is probably only one of 3 boards in my collection. Here, let me pull out my other 1800s. So here we go. Yeah, this is the Budget 96 from Donut Cables. Donut Cables was the first vendor to ever sell GMK camping. This is also one of the last Bootmapper client boards that I ever built on stream. It is running a clone Amazing Chocolatier. Yeah, one of the first boards I converted from Bootmapper client into QMK. Okay, so 1800 all crunched up together. This was something that like Donut Cables really liked. So the other one, I believe I was talking about this earlier, this board has gone through several iterations, but this is my Dolch Pack 60. Dolch Pack 60. It first started off as an original configuration, which I then modified with a Liku PCB, and finally it is now running a TKC 1800 PCB with yeah, these are interesting switches. These are tangerines, but I felt that tangerines with their UHM WP housing was a little too high pitched for me, so I replaced the top with cherries, and I call these tangerines, and it's running SA Hyperfuse. So yeah, so these are the 3 1800 boards that I have. Like, look at that, I had to do a custom USB port there. So yeah, finally a legit 1800 board. My first legit custom 1800. So hooray, hooray, hooray. Finally got one. Yeah, this is a very impressive board. I've always been impressed with Canon Key stuff, to be honest. Yeah, they offer very good value. Good value, good price. And the fact that these boards are now being designed by AIO3, it's going to be awesome. All right, well, I think I've pretty much done all I wanted to do for tonight. Does anyone else have any questions about the Brutal V2 1800? This is a board that's supposed to go on sale in stock in the near future. Now, let's see. Krakenwise says thanks for the stream. Halfling Barista says thanks as well. Can we look at the back? Sure. It's kind of overexposed, but there is the Canon Keys logo right there, which I mentioned earlier was a prime candidate for infilling. Here, let's see if I can angle it better. There we go. You can see it. Did you get the total weight? 1.87 kilograms. There. Show the side profile. Looks good. I'm glad that it's a different color. I like boards that do that. Now, you guys will probably see me or see this on my streams the next couple days, at least until Saturday. On Saturday, I'll be doing another build. But yeah, thanks guys for joining in. Once again, this is the Brutal V2 1800, Canon Keys second V2 Brutal board. It is currently still not for sale, but should show up on their webpage shortly. It'll be an in-stock board. You guys can find out all about it by following the link that I just posted in chat. Yeah, thanks guys for joining in. My next stream will be this coming Saturday. I have a bunch of boards that I need to rebuild because I've gotten better PCBs for them. They're both going to be 75% boards. I don't know which one I'm doing quite yet, but I'll let you guys know by the time Saturday comes over. So yeah, thanks guys for joining in. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye, everyone.